ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Propagandacast Addendum with me, a host, Imperial Day. Not another things I'd like to see, but in this case, talking about, something like some people always talk about, other conflicts than World War II, for the next company years. And overall, for the most part, I think companies, should just stick in World War II. I mean, you could do spin-offs covering other conflicts, but in part, I think, it should just primarily stick to World War II. In part because I just think World War II, just in terms of, conflicts, rather sort of was a unique meld of a sort of lot of situations, which I think will eventually will be quite lost if we sort of get closer to actually contemporary sort of conflicts. And you might ask, guys, that well, basically because things get a lot more homogenized. I mean, they sort of doctrinally become looking a lot more similar. I mean, most, for example, modern tanks look quite similar to them. Not so, of course, they're completely similar, but they're sort of visually, sort of in terms of impact and sort of doctrine, they're quite similar. Obviously, there's going to be some smaller differences, like industrial capacity, technology, and so on there. But I mean, for the most part, I mean, they sort of appear quite similar compared to, say, World War II, where, T-34s, Panzer IVs, Shermans were, rather different beasts in many ways from each other, all sort of born of different ideas, different industries, with much greater difference between them. All that sort of thing there between the different armies. So, it's not completely. I mean, you can, for example, do sort of early Cold War, the 50s to 60s, where there were some greater differences there. I mean, the French had some really curious concepts as well for their tanks. The Americans, the Soviets, all there's some bigger differences there. For example, the Soviets were quick to go for the really big guns. The Americans sort of stayed in between. The French sort of went for really light, and the British, of course, went there, and then, of course, the Germans did as well. So, I mean, in that sense, sort of early Cold War gone hot could, as a conflict, be interesting to explore, for future companies. But again, I've consider that more of a spin-off. But again, it's a possibility, and it could be pretty interesting because, again, back then there were some greater differences, which again was sort of slowly erased and sort of just adopted more ideas from each other. I mean, there's someone talk about the Korean one. I know that'd just be like a redo of the Soviet versus American fight there. That'd be like, yeah, person would have zero interest in it. I mean, more modern again, you sort of run into just sort of melt in together, and then you sort of, well, again, you're already going Cold War, gone hot. So why not more fictional things? Like, why not, like World War II didn't actually go the way people wanted to. The Germans, well, didn't lose, but they didn't win either. They sort of went off in sort of Cold War state from there, and then sort of broke out again, and then sort of taken from there with some different twists. Some of the German stuff they planned actually got made, and the old stuff maybe got upgraded as well. Then the Soviets went off their own way, and the Americans went off their own way. I mean, that could be a pretty interesting way to sort of go for it as well, to be honest. And so, again, would then offer something, bit less than usual, but still something within, what we already know. And then, I mean, you might as well then go, well, why not just go full Wolfenstein? And, well, obviously you could do that. You just completely, crazy technology, diesel punk, maybe some evil sorcerers, American magic, who knows? I mean, call it Company of Madmen, and you're at it. Maybe sneak in some Cthulhu, for all I know. I mean, that could also offer up a lot of interesting things. The Germans with power armors and who knows what. The Russians resorting to mixing men and bears in genetic biology, and the Americans resorting to the old gods to ensure them prosperity and victory, for example, as an idea. I mean, sort of different directions there to sort of overall consider between them. Oh, well, Russian machine men, who knows? Sort of diesel cyborg things. I mean, there's a few thoughts there, but again, that's sort of also, a direction you could go. And of course, you could also just go for sort of like, near future conflict where things sort of gone a bit more off the belt in terms of designs. And again, there's sort of a bit more greater variety there. You could sort of then insert when you sort of just went your own way. But sort of, I mean, overall, again, I still think, World War II just sort of is the perfect storm for an RTS because it just sort of, in terms of variety and sort of technology, just again, it offers a lot there. It sort of allows you to explore a lot of things, and again, it shows you actually got some variety there. Whereas again, if sort of the more sort of closer you get to our times, the less varied to an extent it is. I'm of course not going to say they completely mirrored each other. I mean, there's still differences, but again, they're not, World War II size differences, which is rather what I'm looking at and getting at. So that's sort of a little small, thought there from me on the subject matter. Again, I mean, I'm not saying you can't go from anything but World War II, but I do think World War II just offers a lot there. And the thing is, I mean, even when it comes to World War II, most people sort of never really go deep into it. I mean, hell, Normandy, I think, with Company One was actually barely scraped. I mean, the 21st Panzer Division, South could easily offer you a pretty interesting faction as an example. I mean, there's a lot there just in Normandy, which generally just goes untouched. as an example. The Eastern Front, is in many cases just, again, it's just Berlin, maybe, bag reaction, then the rest again tends to sort of get ignored. There's a lot of stuff that can still be dug up just in World War II. So, even then, I don't think that's something that's, completely delved into. So, yeah, just a little video from me on that because, again, I do see some discussion on it. Not as much as people, A, want, another balance patch, and B, more Axis armies. Of course, I made a video on that, but, I just figured also pop in with my thoughts on this. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed this little video. If you did, subscribe, like, share, and comment on it. This is Imperial Dane signing off, and see you all for another video, another time. Cheers.